Good evening, America. I'm Gene Bailey. Welcome to FlashPoint. So good to have you here. You know, your news is always important, and where you get your news is even more important. So we're glad you're joining us here on FlashPoint 4 nights a week to get your news. Let me check in with our panel here. Somewhere in Central Texas, our friend Rick Green, he's in the cellar somewhere. Rick, glad you're here.
Hey, Gene.
First off, before I go any further, how's the rescue efforts going on south of you there with all the flood victims?
Ongoing, man, and the outpouring of support from so many people from all over the world, frankly, but so many ministries down here, Gene. That's what is so cool to watch. All the churches, all the Christian organizations, the hands and feet of Christ are on full display here, brother. Yeah, they sure are. Well, thank you for doing all you're doing and representing us there. Lance Wall now. Lance, good to have you back tonight.
Good to see you, Gene.
Yeah, always good to have you with us. And in studio, in our new studio, my first studio guest, other than Rick Green, was number one, David Barton. We're getting up. I told Rick we're going up higher. Our quality is already improved immensely. You had the boys, now you have the men. There you go.
Wait. You know, I was never invited as a guest. Now that I think about it,
that was intentional. That was part of the plan.
All right. I just want to get offended early in the show so I can catch up.
No, you're hardly in town, so I have to get you whenever I can.
No, don't blame. This is what Gene does. Now he's going to reverse.
I'm going to call Annabelle.
I'm the problem.
Annabelle is the best one to talk to. I figured it out. Don't talk to Lance. Don't talk to the staff. Talk to Annabelle. You want something done. Talk to her. She'll get it done.
That's pretty much true.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, glad you're here. And David, glad you're with us. Let's talk about, it's one of those things. We got to talk about what's going on in the news, but I don't want to keep talking about Epstein, but yet we need to talk about that. Look at this. Benny Johnson post this. Will you ask Attorney General Pam Bondi to release more documents? Here's what he had to say. Watch.
Will you ask Attorney General Pam Bondi to release more documents to finally put this controversy to bed?
Yeah, whatever's credible, she can release. If a document is credible, if a document's there that is credible, she can release. I think it's good. But it's just a subject. He's dead. He's gone, and. All it is certain Republicans got duped by the Democrats, and they're following a Democrat playbook. And no different than Russia, and all the other hoaxes. They're started by the Democrats, and some Republicans, in this case I was surprised, but they got duped.
All right. This is one of those things that's just not going to go away quickly, probably as quickly as President Trump would like. But David, what should we take? What should we be concentrating on with the whole Epstein thing going on?
This is such a change from what the president had been saying for months and even what he was saying 2 weeks ago. Why? And the best explanation I ever heard is that in those tapes, and we actually thought a week ago it was going to cost Bondi her job. We thought she'd be gone. Trump treated support. But what we're finding out is there was a lot of intelligence agents from other nations involved, apparently from Australia, from Great Britain, from other nations. And they have a lot of information over people they need to actually control with what's in those tapes. If those tapes come out, it blows a lot of their secret operations, a lot of leverage they have over bad guys. And so we're hearing that it's no longer about Epstein and the people he had with him in sex trafficking, that it's now got international implications that deal with security. And that's why you see such a different position from the president. This has gotten to a level that nobody thought it was going to get to.
But Lance, you heard David, what he had to say. I don't think President Trump can just keep saying, you got duped. At some point, he's got to put up and give the American public something. Because the more he does that, the worse it gets.
I love this man, but I'll tell you, he's been operating under such a grace and such an anointing of success. I mean, God's blessed him. Like, no weapon formed against him can prosper. What's the one weapon that could possibly take down Donald Trump? Donald Trump can take down Donald Trump. He's the only weapon that can work against it. And so he takes the one subject that, unfortunately, he's tone deaf on this. And this happens to him. He is a media absorber. but he's watching One American News, MSNBC, CNN, NBC, and the legacy news media up until we freaked out, and a lot of it was Charlie Kirk and Benny Johnson. I'm sorry, our MAGA people and Steve Bannon, with their hair on fire, made this thing an issue that the left said, oh, there's blood in the water, there's division, right. Let's make it a subject. So what happened was Trump wasn't paying attention to the story because it isn't in the news that he listens to. It's in the news we listen to. And now it's in his face. And I think what David said, delicately put, is, wait a second, you've got a blackmail operation running with the CIA, M16, M5, M6, the Australia, Mossad keeps coming up. Everybody freaks out over the Jews. You know, they're involved. And so this becomes such a mess. He wants to say, nothing to see here, move along, guys. Trust me, it's a mess. And the average person, Matt Walsh, Charlie Kirk, our MAGA people are going, no, because we think the elites are guilty of pedophilia, and we think they're getting away with it. And you're the last person we want to see cover that up. He's not trying to cover that up. He's trying to cover something else up. But I think that's why this is a complex carbohydrate.
All right, Rick, get your thoughts here.
Man, it's a mess. It's absolutely a mess. We were doing a Wall Builder show the other day, and Tim Barton mentioned, this is definitely a fumble. There's no doubt about it, even an unforced error and a turnover. But the idea that we would give up on our team or walk away from our team, as I'm seeing some people do, and say, well, I'm not MAGA anymore, I'm not going to support the president anymore, just shows a level of political and spiritual immaturity that it just proves that there are people that have never been involved in this game before, and they don't understand the long game, and they're ignoring all the great victories. Not to say that it shouldn't be exposed, but I tell you, we said this, we've been saying it on Wall Builders, we've been saying it on FlashPoint. You got to trust the guy in the room, and you got to trust the team that's been put together for at least a little longer. I'm not opposed to Charlie and everybody putting some pressure on the administration and saying, no, you can't just walk away from this. And definitely after President Trump's really dismissive comments to his base, I totally support the pressure on the White House to do more and release more. But we can't go in the ditch on the other side and say, well, if they don't do this, all of a sudden the Epstein files are going to be the measurement of whether or not the Trump administration is successful. That's just silly. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I'm surprised at what I'm reading now. This is the first time I've really paid attention to it, that what they're saying, at least, is that there really isn't a lot of evidence against other people other than Epstein. I find that very hard to believe with the number of people that were going to the island, and there has to be evidence against some other people. And I think Lance was the first one to say this a week or two ago. I think it was on Twitter or X when Lance said they probably planted some stuff in the files on Trump in order to sully the whole thing and muddy the water. And I think that's probably part of it, too, is that the Dems had control of this for the last 4 years, and there's no telling what they've done with the files to mess them up. And that's why Trump is saying hoax, 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 because he knows that they put a bunch of junk in there that really wasn't true.
Yeah, but Lance, don't you think, I mean, it's been years now, when you say 4 years, if there's something in there, those things, I think a lot of that's been purged, destroyed. If it was that dicey, you're not going to be able to find it. So I think if Bondi comes up with something to appease the base, it'll be okay.
Look, Maxwell was locked up for conspiracy, for trafficking. The girls were with somebody. I mean, he wasn't all Epstein, right? So he killed himself, not because, obviously he had something, or let's put it this way. He was either killed or killed himself because something serious was there. So there's something there. Right. And the 2 minutes that are missing out of the footage with the Adobe Premiere, a doctored video, like my son, my son's a bit of a cynic. We do a live podcast, and like any father-son moment, I have my moments caught off guard. And I'm saying, well, we've looked at the video footage. He said, that's doctored, live on the air. I go, what are you talking about? He said, yeah, they're missing a minute or two. It went through Adobe. You're not even facing the right cell. You think you're looking at his cell. His room is down the hall. And I said, this is the point. We have an institutional crisis regarding trust with the MAGA base. Donald Trump has bridged it, and now we're watching it kind of get detonated. And that's why we're oversimplifying the problem, Gene, when we think it's just about why are they covering up? There's a reason why Donald Trump doesn't want to go there. I just wish we could have the conversation as adults and say, what's your concern?
Yeah. Well, we're continue to watch, pray, and see what happens. Dave, how is this going to affect midterms? I mean, and I know that's still a ways away, but we're in that zone where it could shape what the storyline is, the whole narrative going into the midterms.
Yeah, I think it has a huge potential effect, not this itself. Back up. I think the first 100 days is what defined the midterms. If Trump had not delivered on the things that he said he was going to do in those first 100 days, I think the midterms would be done at this point. I think the energy's gone. People have gone back. They're ignoring it. They're turning back. Because he delivered on so many things, because the One Big Beautiful Bill institutionalized 28 executive orders so that the next president can't come in and just reverse what Trump did. Because of things like that, I think we got a real shot in the next cycle, and there has been a lot of energy. Now, this story, Epstein, it certainly has a niche with a lot of energy, but unless it gets a lot broader and really penetrates deeper into the base and becomes an issue they do not let go of, something that stays around for months and months, I don't think it's going to have an impact a year from now when we're looking at congressional elections.
Well, we'll definitely score along as we go here. More on that as it happens. All right, let's move along. NBC posts about Maurene Comey. Now, before I play this clip, I want you to understand, if you're like me, you got to get these names right. There's James Comer, who's not James Comey. Maurene Comey is James Comey's daughter. So get that all right, otherwise you'll get really messed up and who's who. All right, play the clip.
The Justice Department firing Maurene Comey, a prosecutor who worked on Epstein's case as well. She's also the daughter of ex-FBI Director James Comey. What can you tell us about that? What are your sources saying? Is there any sort of connection to that firing with this?
It's not clear yet if there is any connection, Ellison. And the other famous case that she worked on is, of course, the Sean Diddy Combs case, which just concluded with the rap mogul being cleared on some of the more serious charges against him, although convicted on some lesser charges. Whether this firing has anything to do with the government's failure to secure a bigger conviction in that case or has anything to do with the Epstein case is unclear at this hour. But you can bet that for conspiracy theorists looking at the Epstein cases, the removal of someone with the last name Comey, who worked on those prosecutions, will only fire up the talks that there is something more nefarious going on here.
All right, Kerry Lake Post, thank you. Attorney General Pam Bondi just in. Bondi fires Maurene Comey from her job. Top DOJ Manhattan prosecutor, the daughter of James Comey. All right, so Rick, how does this play into this whole picture?
Well, it goes back to what Lance said about trust in the institutions, right? We've said for a while here on FlashPoint, we want prosecutions and convictions. We want people to be removed and fired from jobs. The people at the DOJ that harassed the J6ers and the American people for so long. I mean, there's been so many things bad that happened over the last 4 years. The only way to right that ship and to regain that trust is to know that the institutions are once again now going after actual justice, not persecution of political opponents. And so I think this fits into that somewhat. It's like I don't want to say it's like a token thing. I think it's just a piece of, because it's not the only one, right? We've seen a lot of other firings and cleaning house in a lot of areas. And you know, somebody in the chat was saying, I'm doing Ed Rush here since he's not here, but I'm watching the Rumble chat, and Dot in the chat said they're doing this to take away from Trump's victories and get our focus off of those victories. This is why David's right. Those victories were so big. He delivered on so much. If the midterms are held on those issues, we win. But if they're able to distract us with all these other things, we lose. And so I think the firing here, like some of the other firings, is to do the right thing. First of all, just to clean house and get good prosecutors in there and not the political persecutors. But it also brings back our trust. It starts to rebuild and repair that breach that Lance was talking about.
Yeah, go ahead, Lance. I'll let you comment on that. Is it working?
Well, Gene, if we got into the Wayback Machine and went back to when Comey's daughter was first put in charge of the case, I remember bringing it up in FlashPoint and saying, hey, with this Epstein thing, isn't it strange that James Comey's daughter is in charge of the prosecution? You know what that means? That means the lead attack is going to avoid opening certain files. They're going to keep certain things hidden. They're going to discipline the case down to just Ghislaine Maxwell and what she did. They will be astute in not targeting the wrong thing, lest they open up the files and reveal what they don't want to expose. That was a deep state setup from dad to his daughter on controlling what it was by being the prosecution. I mean, think about this. So what's happening now is her being removed from the case. It might be that if the pressure keeps on President Trump, Pam's going to be forced to have to put a special prosecutor in to look at the documents and make a decision as to what can and cannot be revealed, and is there any action to prosecute on.
All right, David, give you a chance to comment.
You know, the interesting thing is I think this may have more legs than what we think, just by the fact that over the last week or so, there's been a lot of votes in Congress. The Democrats are saying that they need to declassify all the Epstein files, and the Democrats are voting unanimously in the House to do that, and the Republicans are voting unanimously not to declassify the files. Now, some of the people in the House said, well, it's procedural. We don't like the way the Democrats are going at it. But nonetheless, the optics is that the Republicans want to cover it up and the Democrats want to bring it out. And that's not a good narrative that the Republicans need to move forward with. So simply what's happening in the House is the political side of this. You know, who knows? I don't have a clue what the real truth is behind that. Some things don't pass the smell test. But right now, this is becoming a political problem if they don't deal with it.
Again, another story we'll continue to watch. I see Travis Johnson. If Travis, if he's available, let me bring him in to comment. Travis, you've been listening there, Pastor Pathway Church there in Mobile, where FlashPoint recently was. Travis, give us your take on what you've been hearing about this whole thing with Maurene Comey.
You know, let me say this about the whole situation here on the Epstein files and how Trump's being talked to. Listen, MAGA, grow up. Grow up. Seriously. President Trump was shot, survived an assassination attempt. He's shut down the border. He's canceled DEI. Men are not going into women's restroom and girls' locker rooms anymore. Yeah, let's deal with this stuff, but show some appreciation for, you know, the greatest president of our time. Come on. Let's work this thing out. This is a ball team. We've got a great champion, and let's come in and let's really give some great support to the president.
Well said. All right, let's move along. Everybody remembers the shooter of the Hoffmans, Vance Boelter. Let's check in with the latest on what's the grand jury indictment. Watch.
My name is Joe Thompson. I'm the acting United States Attorney for the District of Minnesota. I am here with a team of agents, police officers, and prosecutors who are investigating and prosecuting Vance Boelter for the political assassination of Melissa Hortman, the murder of her husband, Mark Hortman, the attempted assassination of John Hoffman, and the shooting and attempted shooting of his wife, Yvette, and daughter, Hope. We are here today to announce that a federal grand jury has returned a 6-count indictment against Vance Boelter.
Included in a newly unsealed search warrant, investigators say this letter written by Boelter was discovered in an abandoned car near his Green Isle home before his arrest. The letter is addressed to FBI Director Kash Patel and right away takes responsibility for these terrible acts before making bizarre claims.
In his letter, Vance Boelter claims that Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota wanted him and approached him about killing United States Senator Amy Klobuchar and Tina Smith. Boelter claims in the letter that he wanted nothing to do with Governor Walz's plan and that he would go public if he insisted.
Acting U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson describing the claims made by Boelter, saying he was secretly trained by the U.S. military off the books, even conducting missions overseas, going on to claim if he didn't carry out the plan to murder Senators Klobuchar and Smith, his family would be hurt, a claim the acting U.S. Attorney agreed was fantasy.
Was it a delusion that he believes, or was it a delusion that is designed as an effort to misdirect our investigation or to frankly excuse his crimes? Well, that's a good question. It certainly seems designed to excuse his crimes.
Also announced today a 6th charge for the attempted murder of Hope Hoffman. Hope released a statement saying, in part, I feel relief today in knowing that the perpetrator of these heinous acts will be charged to the fullest extent of the law.
All right, Lance, you know, I could start with this penmanship on the letter, which is pretty bad, but it's a little convenient, and I know this is the highly suspicious nature of who I am, but I'm like, I am the shooter and they were going to kill me and my family if I didn't do that. It just all seems a bit convenient.
Well, so what are you suggesting? You're suggesting he wasn't the shooter, or are you suggesting
No, I think he's the shooter, but I don't understand the letter. The letter, to me, seems contradictory.
Hey, do you remember that? Do you remember, was it in FlashPoint where we played the clip of his roommate? I mean, the guy's living with this other guy. They were both like, and they looked like a real worn out place. And his roommate, who didn't look like he was together either, has all the press. There were the cameras. He said, "Hey, look, he sent me this text saying, what I'm about to do, you have nothing to do with, and you're completely exonerated from all responsibility." You remember that?
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of aspects to this that's like, these guys are like they're stoners or losers or yeah. So all I can say is we got a shooter in Butler with 3 cell phones whose house gets scrubbed down by the FBI. We still don't know who the phones were for, what his contacts were with the government. It took us how many years since 1963 to find out that Oswald actually was working with the FBI? It's funny how the shooter that was shooting up those beautiful little children in the Christian school, that was, trans kid, they still don't have the manifesto printed, but somehow this letter gets surfaced to the light of day. I'm always leery, Gene, of information that comes easy when the information we want, we can't get.
Exactly. All right, Rick, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's so they make it so easy to come up with conspiracy theories, right? They just feed this stuff to us, I think, sometimes as a distraction, and it's very easy for us to come up with these complicated, nefarious plots that potentially could be what's happening. I mean, we've joked about the fact that, the only difference between a conspiracy theory lately and reality is about 6 months, and it's felt like that for the last 4 or 5 years. So I honestly have to say I have no idea. I think there's crazy people in the world, and I think they do crazy things, and sometimes they connect themselves to the left, sometimes to the right. And I'm always for transparency. I'm always for, like Lance is saying, the fact that manifesto is not out. The fact that you don't at least let the Epstein files out that aren't going to harm a victim. I just think Bill Bennett was right all along. Sunlight's the best disinfectant in every one of these situations. And when they don't do that, it leaves all of us to sit around going, there must be a seriously nefarious plot if they're not telling us the facts.
Okay, David, make sense out of it.
Man, I don't know that you can make sense out of it. Some of the things that disturb me, not what happened with this letter, but going back to what he did and going back to the fact that he was allegedly a Christian preacher, he was a missionary, he did Christian work, and then he murdered some people in cold blood. You already, if that's true, if he did all the stuff that we're told he did, you're delusional at that point. You're deceived. The enemy's got you. Murder is not what God tells his people to go do. And so it would not surprise me that a delusional letter would be something that he would write, and that he's deceived in so many areas. And that's all based on the fact that we think the first kind of information that was released may have been right, that he did have this kind of schizophrenic personality. But who knows? I mean, Rick and Lance are right. This is crazy. Don't know where it's going.
Okay, Travis, since I brought you in early, might as well ask you, first off, is your penmanship better than that?
No, I mean, I'm still hung up on the handwriting. I think you nailed it on that. But the truth is, pretty much since we've been texting, all of our handwriting's been, falling apart. So whenever I have to write a little note, I'm like, what's going on here? So, an interesting take, great hot take from Gene Bailey.
Yeah, well, and we'll see. All right, we're going to go to break early because we got a lot more to cover. Don't go away. Lance Wallnau is going to tell you something you never heard before after the break.
The War Room is calling. The FlashPoint War Room, a powerful community of believers standing together in prayer, unity, and bold support. Get exclusive updates on what God is doing right now through this movement. Stand in faith, stand for truth, and stand with FlashPoint as we press into what God is doing in this season. Whether you're a pastor, intercessor, or a passionate viewer, this is your call to action. Go to fparmy.com and join the War Room today.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gene Bailey. You're watching FlashPoint.
It's official. FlashPoint is now 4 nights a week. You can catch us every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. More news, more encouragement, more opportunities to stand for truth. Don't miss a moment.
What you guys do, it's immeasurable.
Make sure you go online and share this with all of your friends, your family, even people you don't know.
FlashPoint, always to the right of center. FlashPoint Live is on the move in 2025. From coast to coast, believers are coming together for nights of bold truth, unshakable unity, and powerful worship and prayer.
Make sure you go online and share this with all of your friends, your family, even people you don't know.
July 27th at the Fort Worth Convention Center in Fort Worth, Texas. August 28th and 29th, Angela's Temple in Los Angeles, California, with Pastor Matthew Barnett. September 11th, Omaha, Nebraska, at the Opening the Heavens Conference with Pastor Hank and Brenda Kuhneman. October 2nd and 3rd, Living Stones in Crown Point, Indiana, with Pastor Ron Johnson. And December 6th, don't miss the FlashPoint Christmas Gala in the DFW Metroplex. Be a part of the movement. Mark your calendar. Visit fparmy.com/events and stay up to date on where FlashPoint Live will be next.
We're back for the second half. Listen, you need to join us in Fort Worth, Texas, just around the corner, July 27th. One night only, Fort Worth, Texas. We've got such a wild group of people. My goodness, right there at the Tarrant County Convention Center. Fort Worth Convention Center. It's been renamed. fparmy.com/events. Come join us. It's free, absolutely free. It's only one night, so you need to get in there early. We've got a packed evening. We got John Amanchukwu. We got a host of people that are going to be with there. I want to see you there. And there's all the events are listed on the website. Go there. You can find out how you can be a part. Come join us. We look forward to seeing you there. Just register. And here's why we want you to register. It just gives us an idea of how many people are coming. We don't sell your name to anybody or anything like that, but we want to know how many we can prepare for. So that's why it's important to register. All right, Travis, you just got back from a whirlwind trip. Tell us about where you were.
Well, Gene, it's always great to be on with you, of course. Jet lagging a little bit, completely worth it. I feel like it's one of the most important trips I've ever had in my life. Being in the Democratic Republic of Congo with as a guest of President Felix Antoine Tshisekedi. And it was an incredible time. We met with the U.S. ambassador to Congo, the prime minister, the foreign minister, many of the cabinet members, chief of staff, Ambassador Anton Gonda. The reason we're there, for 5 years, I've had a brother in Christ that's been a part of my church, 16 years living in the United States from Congo. Every single day that he can, he's asking me to pray for Congo. We've been praying together for 5 years. And the reason is because it is the greatest genocide. It's the greatest loss of life in any conflict in the world. In fact, more people are dying right now, being raped, experiencing the most horrific violence in the eastern part of the DRC than all of the conflicts in the world combined. And so we've been praying and working on that, been working with a number of groups, and then President Trump goes into office. And a lot of things have changed. In fact, just a few weeks ago, we saw President Trump sign a peace agreement between Rwanda and between the DRC. And this trip that we had has been planned. So here we find ourselves right there in the capital city, Kinshasa, on the front lawn of the People's Palace, which is basically the White House. It's a seat of the Senate, the National Assembly, and the residence of President Tshisekedi. And I stood on stage in front of 30,000 people in an event that was under the high patronage of the President of the Republic. And the event was entitled DRC for Peace in Jesus Christ. And wow. I was able to preach to some 30,000 people. We're asking for the peace of God to sweep over the country, and especially there in the east, in Goma, in Bunia and Kivu, and we're just asking for God to do a miracle work. You know, there's terrorist rebel groups that are just doing some of the most horrific things. And so that's where we were. And Gene, it's a miracle. People have asked me, how in the world did that happen? 2 words, only God. That's the only way that you could explain what has taken place in the last few days.
All right, so listen, Travis sent me a video, and listen, I told you FlashPoint's going global. Watch this.
Hey, we are in Kinshasa. We just finished up right here in the Democratic Republic of Congo, an incredible event. It was
amazing.
It was incredible. How many people were there?
25,000 more or less.
Unbelievable. And what we were after was peace in Jesus Christ for DRC. So hey, listen, we just want to give a shout out to the FlashPoint Army, Gene Bailey. Come on, the White House Faith Office, Paula White, Jenny Korn, you guys are amazing. It's been awesome to be here with President Tshisekedi just shortly after the peace agreement was signed.
Yes, and really, it was really, you brought hope. You know, people, they could not believe that, you know, after the agreement, you know, the peace agreement that was signed, you know, that there would be a follow-up, you know, because people were thinking it was just, you know, something that could just stop there. But, you know, when you came here, the people said, okay, so this time, you know, President Donald Trump, you've made it.
Unbelievable. President Donald Trump on the 1-year anniversary of the failed assassination attempt on our president in Butler, Pennsylvania. Here we are worshiping Jesus Christ with about 25 or 30,000 Christians gathered up in front of the Palace of the People. And so we're just so really thankful and hopeful. President Tshisekedi was so warm today.
So warm because he said it was a miracle, you know, for President Trump, you know, and he mentioned that, you know, the fact that, you know, he has been saved and he did not die. It was the first miracle, and then, you know, today is the second miracle. Because the prayer, you know, for both nations, you know, that specific dates, you know, it is actually a continuation. And it is also a proof that, you know, we are heading toward the end of the 30 years of war, and which is really incredible. Peace and stability for the Great Lakes region and also for the whole world.
The only thing else that I could say is, you know, peace is such an incredible thing, but what if God does a little bit more and we see revival all across the Congo, all across Africa, you know, in America as well. You've been a part of a miracle for us as well. So we thank you, Ambassador Gonda.
I thank Lord to have given me the opportunity, you know, to meet such great people, you know, like you, people who are, I have to say, who are more Congolese than me. And for that, you know, I have to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, listen, I got another idea before we go.
Okay.
Hey, Gene Bailey, what would you think about FlashPoint Live in Kinshasa?
This is what we are aiming at, you know, and we hope that, you know, you will push for it.
Hey, Gene Bailey, call me.
Call me too.
Okay, FlashPoint Live, Kinshasa. I told everybody, Travis, we're going global this year. So, you know, you think we could do it? Think we could pull that off?
I think we can do it. I also think that, Gene, you and the FlashPoint Army can go down in history as being at the very pinch point, the hinge point, the intersection where we bring an end to this silent genocide. It's demonic what's happened there.
That's right.
And you would do so much, the FlashPoint Army would do so much to bring relief and peace and prosperity and even a great awakening. I think it would be the best thing in the world. If you're there, man, we're going to roll out the red carpet for you. It's going to be amazing.
Pastor Travis, call me.
I like it.
All right, Rick, we're going to send you down first to go.
Let's go, man.
And,
hey, obviously it needs to happen. I mean, Travis didn't know. I mean, we're basically echoing each other tonight. I was talking in the first part about our people being more mature and not being so childish about how to respond to this. And the first thing out of his mouth, I actually felt like the prophet had shown up to say it much more bluntly than I did, because he looked at the camera and said, grow up. And I was like, way to go, Travis. So I'd love to go with him, man. That'd be fun.
Yeah, well, you know, FlashPoint, you just never know where we'll go. We're going to pray about it and see what God says and how and when and how to make it happen. So stay tuned on that one. All right, let's talk about that guy named Mr. Autopen, and the call to the Department of Justice about Anthony Fauci. Watch.
You know what the Autopen is supposed to do? Sign thousands of letters from young people that write. We get thousands of letters a week, Susie, right? Thousands. I mean, tens of thousands sometimes. I look at a room, there's a room where we have many, many people working, responding and sending letters back. That's what an Autopen's supposed to be. To write to a young 7-year-old boy that writes to the president and he wants to be president someday and he loves America. That's what the Autopen's supposed to be.
Now, keep in mind, with the Autopen, he reduced the sentences of convicts, 4,000 plus, including 1,500 individuals. 1,500 individuals. It was described as the largest single-day act of clemency by a U.S. president. And in this 10-minute interview, Joe Biden admits, I told them the criteria for the people that I would pardon. Didn't necessarily mention the name or sign off on all of them individually. Zeitz and Siskel both did this. So we don't still know after that 10-minute interview about what went on with the pardons.
So back in July of 2023, Rand Paul referred Dr. Fauci to the DOJ for lying under oath, said that Fauci's own email contradicted his sworn testimony. This was his sworn testimony before he was pardoned.
The NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Do they fund Dr. Barrick?
We do not fund.
Do you fund Dr. Barrick's gain-of-function research?
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain-of-function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North Carolina.
So, Lawrence, the question is, who pardoned him? Was it Joe Biden?
Right.
Was it some staffer that made the decision with the Autopen? And that's why Rand Paul is referring Dr. Fauci again, re-referring him to the DOJ.
This is what they're saying right here. The New York Times reports Fauci was quietly pardoned by an Autopen operated by Biden's staff. If the president didn't authorize this pardon personally, then the department has a duty to investigate and prosecute as it would any ordinary citizen. Fauci has been sainted by the extreme left, but it doesn't erase his lying before Congress.
Okay. Lance, I know you. Is this the part you were going to tell us something we hadn't heard before?
No. Let's stick with the Autopen for the moment, Gene. Stay in the continuity of
I am. I thought you had some new breaking news.
Oh, yeah, well, I was, but now you're on the Autopen. Let's talk about the Autopen. So here's the situation. This guy, Zeitzer and Siskel, whatever you got, Siskel and Ebert or whatever. You got the team up there in Biden's White House, and you know what happened. And they got Susan Rice, and they got their people saying, hey, we got to get Fauci. Get me on that list. Who is that? And they're writing down their list. They're getting the list together. Then they go in and tell the president, who's half, non-compos mentis, we're going to do some pardons for you, Mr. President. We're going to be showing them to you. Okay. They do the pardons, and then they say they got verbal authorization. Now, the argument we're making is he wasn't cognizant of what they were doing, and therefore it isn't legitimate. I don't know why we're covering the subject. All he's got to do is do what these guys always do, lie, and have enough presence to go, Jill go, honey, you knew what you were doing, right? Huh? Yeah, I knew what I was doing. And that's what he's going to do. So I don't know where the story's going to go. Yes, it was a ripoff. Yes, we had a brain-dead guy in office. But there's nothing much you're going to be able to do about it unless you have a criminal type of a different kind of a prosecution, which would be which is possible with Fauci, because there were damages done to people as a result of that gain of function. But it wouldn't be a government process. It would be a private one.
All right, David, speak to that. I mean, where does this go from here? Can it go anywhere?
I would take this in a different direction. Instead of looking at Fauci, let me back up. If this is in the era of Franklin Roosevelt, if this is Harry Truman, if this is Dwight Eisenhower, and we found a document with their signature on it and found out that they didn't sign it, we would say, that's forgery, that's fraud. And we would go after those who committed the forgery and the fraud. And in this case, if we can say, and it's going to be easy to show whether it's an Autopen or not, I mean, that's an easy forensic piece. If it is, then forget Biden for the time being. Mentally, he may not be there. Somebody committed forgery, and someone they've used power. And I think you start going after people at that level so that this never happens again. You can't prosecute Biden. You're not going to do anything of that. You can make him look bad in the media. Go after the people that actually did something they should not have done to make sure that never happens again.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, Rick, I'll let you comment on that.
100% agree, man, and I think that we kind of got excited about that a couple of months ago because there was some talk both from Trump and some of the staff that they were looking into the staff for doing this. And let's just back up and think about this from a practical perspective. The operation of the White House, to Trump's point that there are tens of thousands of responses to letters. I think there's even an appropriate place for the Autopen if the president does like what President Trump did, where he says, I am publicly on camera in front of the whole world signing an executive order to pardon all 1,500 J6ers. Well, then each of those 1,500 probably get some sort of official pardon paper that then has the Autopen, but he's made it very clear, I am pardoning this entire group of people. Everybody's cognizant of who they are and exactly what that group is. I could see a situation where President Biden pardoned an entire group of people that had been prosecuted under a particular law that he thought was an unfair law. I could even be okay with that if he publicly said that and he signed an executive order. Everybody knows he's not doing this thing in secret and the staff's not sneaking in a bunch of names. Totally different when you're dealing with a public figure like Anthony Fauci, that you have this hot potato, this hot political potato where people are wanting to come after him for all the damage that he did to the country, how many people were harmed, all of the things that we know. We've all said he deserves to be prosecuted more than anyone out there. It's even more important than the Epstein files. That's a totally different animal and should absolutely require, to David's point, the actual signature of the president and not the fraudulent signature of somebody that, maybe got by, blink twice if you want this one to go through, blink once if you don't. I mean, that's essentially the point at which they were at with the cognitive functions of this guy. So I'm all for the investigations. I think David's right. You got to go after the individuals that did this. And then in the future, have a more clear, and maybe it's a constitutional amendment, maybe it's an act of Congress, I don't know, but a more clear line of when an Autopen can be used and when it can't be used, because this is ripe for abuse, y'all. This is bureaucrats running the country that no one voted for. That's what we're talking about here.
So, David, is there any guidelines established for Autopen?
There are no guidelines established that we know of for Autopens. They could have stuff internally, and it could be your chief of staff telling people, but there's nothing written that we know of in any way, shape, fashion, or form. But you have to go back to intent on so many things. And as Rick explained, look, if it's the intent of the president to do something and a staffer does the intent of the president, that's one thing. But if it's done without the intent of the principal, then you're into a whole different category. And that appears to be what this is. But there's no guidelines that we know of or seen or heard of, and I don't think they will create guidelines for that. Now, maybe as a result, they'll put some boundaries around it, and maybe even Congress will do that. But as Trump said, if you got 10,000 letters coming in from kids and you want to send a signature back that they can, hang and frame, that's fine. But that's not a matter of law, and that has no impact other than I've got a souvenir from the president, and that's the extent of it. And so if they want to put boundaries around that, that's probably a good thing to do.
I think we're going to have to see that happen. All right, David, in this last few minutes, let's talk about what you're doing with RestoreAmericanSchools.com. Walk us through that.
Yeah, Restore American Schools goes back to something that happened in classrooms before 1980 when the Supreme Court made a decision, Stone v. Graham. And what's happened now is 3 states have said, we're going to put the 10 Commandments back up in every classroom in our state. Right. 2 states, Texas and Arkansas, have the same law. And so in those 2 states, we're talking about 350,000 classrooms in those 2 states. And so now as this school session starts, you're able to put 10 Commandments up in every single classroom in Arkansas and Texas. And so right now we have a website up, Restore American Schools, that allow people to sponsor schools and sponsor classrooms and get those 10 Commandments up so kids will see them for the rest of their educational career.
Well, let's walk through some of these pages that are on your website, RestoreAmericanSchools.com. You really, I like this because people can go there and you basically walk them through what to do. And there's a page on why this matters. Why does this matter? I mean, it's great that we can do that. Most people don't realize that they're still thinking we can't go there.
Yeah, we can go there. We have a number of Supreme Court cases that made really clear that if you can show that something is historical and traditional, they're now assuming it to be constitutional. And that's new in the last 3 years from the court. So 10 Commandments, the first grade textbook, the first textbook ever used in America, used 200 years, starts in first grade with 43 questions on the 10 Commandments. So we can show it's historical. We can also show that it's traditional, and so therefore put it back up. And the cool thing about the website is, okay, you're in the FlashPoint Army in Maine. You don't care about necessarily what Texas or Arkansas, but you can help sponsor them. And by the way, this can all be done now. It's being worked in all the states. There are 30 states who have introduced 10 Commandments bills simply because the Supreme Court changed the position and said you can now do this. And so every state needs to be aggressive on this. Every state needs to be saying, hey, we want this in our classrooms. If you can't get it in your classrooms yet, you can help these other schools, because it only goes up if people donate it to the schools. So take sponsorship, donate, it's $1 a poster, $30 takes care of one school, 30 classrooms, $30, man, you get a lot of 10 Commandments up. And the deal is, we know from Jesus that if you can't control the heart, you can't control behavior. 10 Commandments help you control the heart, and that makes a good citizen.
So go back a little bit. So somebody watching tonight they don't live in Texas or Arkansas. If they do, you need to jump on this. What can they do? They can go on and sponsor these posters?
Yeah, if you live outside of Texas, when you get to the website, you'll see a couple options. You can donate and say, hey, I'm out of the state, but I want the kids to have this. And we're talking, again, 350,000 classrooms, probably in the vicinity of 8-9 million kids. And so when you look at that, you can help just give an amount. $1 takes care of a poster for one classroom. Or you can say, I want to sponsor in my district. I do live in Texas, and I want to adopt the schools in my district, or I want to adopt a school close to me or some other school, and you can do that. So if you're in Texas or Arkansas, that's what the website specifically ties you to your schools. If you're outside of Texas or Arkansas, you can help here, and you can sponsor for other schools where the people may have schools but not money to put it up. So that's the options.
Great. All right, FlashPoint Army, RestoreAmericanSchools.com. Let's get after it and get this all over the United States in all 50 states. All right, Lance, I know you're going to personally help out with those 10 Commandments, but have you thought about what you were going to tell people that they haven't heard about
yet?
Yes,
Gene, I do. I remember what I was going to tell people. I'm going to return to a previous show we did, where you were less than convinced that I was giving history, and it was at the end of the show, and a lot of people might have missed it. So let me go back. The president may get a Nobel Prize. Yep. He'll be shocked, but he wants it. It's the one he hasn't got. But peace in the Congo and Rwanda, in the Middle East. I mean, who else has done what this guy's done? Anyway, the person who really funded and launched the Nobel Prize, Alfred Nobel, was the inventor of dynamite. And he made a fortune blowing things up. He was Swedish. And a bunch of military complexes were buying the dynamite from him. And somebody thought he died and wrote in the obituary, "Good riddance, Alfred Nobel, the merchant of death." And he was so horrified that his name was in the obituary and that they would remember him as a merchant of death, that he vowed to God at that moment that he would not go down in history as the man of death, but the man of peace. And so he dedicated all of his profits to prizes to give to those who promote world peace. Alfred Nobel died in 1896, December 10th, having inaugurated the Nobel Peace Prize. And that's the rest of the story.
That's the rest of the story. It's great. Now, all right, so, David, we were talking before the show about this. So Netanyahu, he's got a nomination from there, a nomination from the Congo. Where else is there?
I think it's Sweden. That was the first one just a couple weeks after he was in. And then Netanyahu, so there's 2 official nominations for him. And they're looking at somebody from Congo doing that. And that's a Christian-Muslim conflict. And he brought peace to that. And it was very, it's not all over, but there's peace agreed. So that's looking at 2 nominations for sure, maybe 3. We'll see what they do with that. But that's significant.
I don't see how he doesn't get it, to be honest with you. I mean, anyway. All right, let's move along. President Reagan and Sam Donaldson from ABC News. This is a great clip. I want to leave it with you. Watch this.
Mr. President, in talking about the continuing recession tonight, you have blamed mistakes of the past, and you have blamed the Congress. Does any of the blame belong to you?
Yes, because for many years I was a Democrat.
Nobody quite like President Reagan. And as we see this happening in California, and we didn't spend much time on this tonight, talking about Rick. But I don't know if you saw this, but the Babylon Bee posted some very interesting news about the bear on the California state flag. Have you seen this story? It actually left and is moved to Texas. It's there on the. It's okay. Before everybody freaks out, no, it's a joke. It's satire. But Rick, is very true. A lot of people from California are moving to either Florida or Texas.
Yeah, and it actually, I mean, I totally understand for a family that does decide to move. It makes our job harder out there. You know, I mean, Lance, David, me, you, all four of us, we still go to California a lot and speak, and we invest a lot of time and energy and resources because we believe California can be turned around and saved. But man, every time one of those families leaves, it definitely makes it harder. But you know, look, they honestly, they deserve a lot of pain in California for choosing the leaders that they have and the things that they've done. But to David's point earlier about the Ten Commandments, it's not just those two states that have passed it. Any state can do this, and it's not just the Ten Commandments. It's in God we trust. It's getting Bible curriculum back in schools. It's time release. It's getting chaplains in schools. It's all constitutional. And now the Supreme Court has basically rubber stamped all of this and said, go get them after the Coach Kennedy case. So I, definitely get folks out there that are watching, go to that website, sponsor some Ten Commandments posters, maybe even go to your local county courthouse and ask them if they'll put the Ten Commandments up. That's our Rebuilding Liberty program. That's step number 5 in our 12-step recovery for the country. And if you do the Rebuilding Liberty course, you'll learn how to do one of those 12 steps. And maybe the Ten Commandments is the one for you. But, Gene, there's something for all of us to do, including all those good folks in California that want to turn their state around.
And I believe, well, we've met. There are a lot of good people in California, a lot of good conservatives. Right. And I believe there's a lot of closet conservatives that have felt, Lance, that the job is too big. There's too many. They can't fight the system. Well, look at this, what happened with Gavin Newsom. Breaking, Eric Doherty post, President Trump officially cancels funding for the California Governor Gavin Newsom's failed high-speed train project. The boondoggle, led by incompetent governor of California, Gavin Newsom, has cost taxpayers hundreds of billions of dollars. That's with a B, and we've received nothing in return except cost overruns. The railroad we promised still does not exist, never will. The project was severely overpriced, overregulated, and never delivered. This is what the people in California are upset about. We have a lot of viewers in California, and we have a lot of people on the West Coast. And listen, this is where we have to stand up and take a stand. But Lance, this is a good sign. Let us remember before you comment, Lance, David, the numbers on the election, the presidential election, was a lot closer than we thought it would be for California, right?
It was. California, there were several places that were closer than we thought they would be. And so there was a large swing. But in California particularly, it's interesting to see that there are pockets out there really starting to change, really starting to turn. And so they've got some contests going now over congressional redistricting already, and we're still years away because of the shift that they see happening. And Rick and I were with talking to George Barna a couple days ago, and George is doing biblical worldview state by state. And as it turns out, if you're in the West Coast area like Oregon or Washington, that state has a higher biblical worldview than we do here in Texas, of all places. Texas is 30 out of the 45 states. And it makes a lot of sense because out there's no squishy middle ground. You got to know what you believe, and that helps you. And so if those people who are there will get engaged in the process.
There it is. Yep.
There's a lot of people out there who believe right, but they feel like they're outmanned and we can do nothing about it, and they don't. And so if you recall, the mayor of Los Angeles, last mayor, Garcetti, bragged about the fact that he was elected mayor of Los Angeles with only 2.9% of the vote is all he received. And you're talking about the mayor of Los Angeles, population of Los Angeles is larger than 23 states in the United States. It's like electing a governor and a 2.9% voter turnout. Come on. So California can turn things around for sure, and so can the whole West Coast.
All right, Lance. There's a big setup there.
Yeah, it's a big setup. Gene, I was a little upset today. I was reading about this meeting where some friends of mine were up at Washington this week with the president, big business guys, and President Trump is meeting with, evangelical big business people. He hasn't met with them before, just as a group. And he was talking about how he's really on a mission to bring religion back into this country again. But he said something interesting. He said, when I started in politics, I remember I had a room of 50 pastors, and I said to them, I said, I really want to break that Johnson Amendment, and I want you guys to be free, and I want you to be able to speak up and endorse me. I need your help. And they were nervous about going public because they could lose their tax-exempt status.
That's right.
And it bothered me because California, Oregon, Wisconsin, all the West Coast and a bunch of other states, we got 350,000 pastors out there that could speak up. And if they would tell their people, have the courage to get clear in your head and go vote what you believe, we actually could turn things around. And but I was impacted today by the realization that Trump never forgot. A room full of pastors wouldn't endorse him because of the tax impact. And I just think it's wrong. We should get past that.
We should get past it. All right, let's go around the room and wrap it up here. Rick, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I think what Lance is talking about is one of the linchpins for how we ended up in the mess that we did. I mean, if we don't speak truth, then the lies are perpetrated across the country, and the people buy it. And the church has the truth, so we have all the answers. We just have to go out there and teach it. So, I again encourage everybody to get with friends and neighbors, find fellow patriots. Don't feel like you're alone if you're out there in California or Oregon or Washington. I mean, David's right. George Barna showed us how there's so many people out there that do have the right worldview. If you haven't found a church yet that expresses that and will back you up on that, go find one. Go to mychurchfinder.org. Go to one of these organizations. Talk to Jack Hibbs and Rob McCoy and their churches and find out who's local to you that will be bold. But you're not alone at all. And the tide is turning. So get with some other people and press the gas, man. Let's press our advantage and advance truth.
Amen. I love it. All right, David, 30 seconds.
We have 384,000 churches in America. Only 2.8% of pastors address things that are in the news from a biblical viewpoint. We got to get that group talking. The IRS has announced that they are not going to enforce the Johnson Amendment. This came out just a couple of weeks ago. You have no reason not to. They can't take your tax exemption away for that now. There's no reason not to talk about what's in the news and do it from a biblical standpoint, get your people involved.
All right, Lance. Yeah, 30 seconds. Rep it.
Gene, there are 3 million teachers in the United States. The Supreme Court just came out with a powerful decision that the teachers no longer have to be part of the teachers' union. They can break away from it and begin to own their own identity. God is bringing reformation to America.
He sure is. And there was the whole actors thing. We didn't don't have a clip to show you, but did you see where Randy Quaid did the whole thing with the Unwoke Actors Guild? And it's creating quite a stir in Hollywood. So we are taking ground. We are making ground. And listen, I want to say as we get ready to go off the air, be watching. The FlashPoint network is expanding. We're in lots of talks right now with other stations that we can take the network to. Make sure you go online to fparmy.com and follow us on YouTube, all the places, all the news. Make sure you sign up for the emails. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, David. Thank you, Lance and Rick. And, of course, our friend, Pastor Travis Johnson from Mobile. And thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part. Thank you for being an investor in what FlashPoint is doing as we continue to take this message global in 2025. I hope to see you soon at a FlashPoint event. Remember, not only are we to the right of center, but we are telling you the truth because this is where the truth lives. It lives at FlashPoint. We'll see you tomorrow night.